great pleasure in welcoming His Excellency, the Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of Australia.
Much has changed since the United Nations was established many years ago. Australia was there in the beginning, and we are here today because we continue to believe that differences can be resolved through dialogue and mutual respect, because we believe that an international rules-based order is essential for global stability, security and prosperity, because we know that you cannot have prosperity without peace. The world today is complex and contested. Many fatalistically see a polarised world where countries feel pushed to make binary choices. Australia will continue to resist this path. Australia will continue to seek to honestly maintain our great alliances and comprehensive partnerships in good repair, from our great and powerful friends to our smallest Pacific Island family neighbours. Approaching its 75th anniversary next year, the UN must reform and evolve to respond effectively to the challenges of the 21st century. And to fulfil its core mandate, the UN must be ever mindful of the principles and values that have always been foundational to the UN's efforts and success. Peaceful settlement of disputes in accordance with international law, respect for the sovereignty and independence of all states, open markets that facilitate the free flow of trade and capital and ideas, freedom of faith and freedom of expression, respect for human rights, and combating disadvantage, discrimination and persecution based on disability, gender, religion, sexuality, age, race or ethnicity. These are the liberal democratic values which underpin the UN at its inception. These are Australia's values. We believe they should remain the guiding principles and values for the United Nations into the future. The alternate path of lowest common denominator transactionalism and relativism is a dead end. The UN is the prime custodian of the rules-based order. It is also the custodian of mechanisms for dialogue and adjudication which buttress them. It has a challenging task ahead of it. For Australia's part, we will continue to practice what we preach. Last month, Australia ratified a maritime treaty setting out a new sea boundary with Timor-Leste. This followed the first ever conciliation initiated under the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea. This demonstrates that the UN and its norms are central to a cooperative rules-based approach to global challenges. In the Pacific, we are also stepping up. Australia is the single largest development partner for Pacific Island nations. This is an instinctive response for Australia, consistent with our clear national interests and our commitment to our Pacific family, our vuvale, our whānau. Our goal is simple: that the Southwest Pacific is secure strategically, stable economically, sovereign politically, and sustainable environmentally. The UN's work in partnership with Australia has also helped to build a more sustainable and resilient Pacific, to support local climate change actions and resilience, to strive for gender equality through the empowerment of women and girls, to support continuing improvement in health outcomes and to bolster regional peace, including through the Bougainville Referendum Support Project. Today, I would like to take the opportunity, though, to speak about Australia's response to the great global environmental challenges. Firstly, how Australia is acting to protect our oceans. Australia is an island continent. Australia has the world's third largest maritime jurisdiction, stretching from the Great Southern Ocean to the vast Pacific and Indian Oceans. Over 85% of Australians' population lives within just 50 kilometres of the coast. Australia's Indigenous peoples have been linked to the land and our sea for more than 65,000 years. Our oceans connect Australia with the world. 99% of Australia's trade by volume is carried by sea. And by 2025, marine industries will contribute around $100 billion each year to our economy. So our prosperity and security rely on the established laws that govern freedom of navigation, be it in the Strait of Hormuz or closer to home. Protecting our oceans is also one of the world's most pressing environmental challenges. To protect our oceans, Australia is committed to leading urgent action to combat plastic pollution that is choking our oceans, to tackle over-exploitation of our fisheries, to prevent ocean habitat destruction, and of course, to take action on climate change. Scientists estimate that in just 30 years' time, the weight of plastics in our oceans may exceed the weight of the fish in those oceans. Recently, I announced that Australia will ban exports of waste plastic, paper, glass and tyres, and we anticipate that starting in 2020. That's about 1.4 million tonnes of potent recyclable material. Australia is also leading on practical research and development into recycling, turning recycled plastic and glass into roads, manufacturing 100% recycled PET bottles and capturing methane and waste to create energy. New technologies are coming online with the potential to recycle used plastics into valuable new plastics, creating a circular plastics economy. These include innovations like bioplastics, compostable plastic replacements and technologies like the catalytic hydrothermal reactor, an innovative Australian-designed technology that converts end-of-life plastics into waxes, diesel and new plastics. These innovations show us a truly circular economy is not only possible, but is achievable and is of course essential. And as Australians, we intend to do more. Australians will invest $167 million through our government in an Australian recycling investment plan. Our focus is to create the right investment environment so that the new technologies are commercialised, preventing pollution entering our oceans and creating valuable new products. Australia supports the high-level panel for a sustainable ocean economy, and we are working through the International Maritime Organisation to address the way shipping contributes to plastics pollution in our oceans. Australia supports the G20 work on marine plastic debris and the Osaka Blue Ocean Vision championed by Prime Minister Abe. We welcome the contributions and leadership from business and the private sector to address these challenges, including Australia's own Minderoo Foundation. Industry-led mechanisms for investing in new recycling technologies and mitigating plastic waste in rivers, beaches and oceans on a global scale is absolutely essential to the way forward. We must also act, though, to safeguard the sustainability of our fisheries. This means cracking down on illegal fishing. There are too many nations standing by while their nationals are thieving the livelihoods of their neighbours. Australia is acting not only in our own interests, but helping our Pacific Island family to reduce illegal fishing, which depletes the fish stocks of Pacific Islanders who rely on that for their jobs, for revenue and their food security. We have also worked together with Indonesia, and I congratulate President Widodo. We are co-committed to an action plan to combat illegal fishing in Southeast Asia, and we thank Indonesia for their regional leadership. And we are working with regional organisations to improve fisheries governance. As well, we provide trawl boats to 13 countries, supported by aerial surveillance through our Pacific Maritime Security Program with Pacific Island nations, to help them police illegal fishing in their own waters. We are leading efforts to preserve natural habitats and biodiversity, including through partnerships with other countries to protect migratory birds and their habitats. And we have worked hard to prevent commercial whaling and to end whaling in the Southern Ocean. Australia set up the International Partnership for Blue Carbon in 2015 with the aim of protecting and conserving mangroves, tidal marshes and seagrasses for climate change mitigation and adaptation. And our Great Barrier Reef, remains one of the world's most pristine areas of natural beauty. Feel free to visit. Our reef is vibrant and resilient and protected under the world's most comprehensive reef management plan. The UNESCO World Heritage Committee has found that Australia's management of our reef is highly sophisticated and considered by many as the gold standard for large-scale marine protected areas. Australia's $2 billion Reef 2050 long-term sustainability plan is based on the best available science, draws on 40 years of analysis and experience underpinned by the management of the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park Authority. Australia's continued support for reef, coral and water quality science will ensure that our Great Barrier Reef remains one of the best managed World Heritage Sites in the world. Now, Australia is also taking real action on climate change, and we're getting results. We are successfully balancing our global responsibilities with sensible and practical policies to secure our environmental and our economic future. Australia's internal, though, and global critics on climate change willingly overlook or perhaps ignore our achievements, as the facts simply don't fit the narrative they wish to project about our contribution. Australia is responsible for just 1.3% of global emissions. Australia is doing our bit on climate change, and we reject any suggestion to the contrary. By 2020, Australia will have overachieved on our Kyoto commitments, reducing our greenhouse gas emissions by 367 million tonnes more than required to meet our 2020 Kyoto target. Now, there are a few members, whether at this forum or the OECD, who can make this claim. Our latest estimates show that both emissions per person and emissions intensity of our economy are at their lowest level in 29 years. In 2012, it was estimated Australia would release some 693 million tonnes of emissions in 2020. As of 2018, this estimate has fallen to 540 million tonnes. Australia's electricity sector is producing less emissions. In the year to March 2019, emissions from Australia's electricity sector were 15.7% lower than the peak recorded in the year to June 2009. And while we are a resource-rich country, it is important to note that Australia only accounts for around 5.5% of the world's coal production. So having met, and we will exceed, our Kyoto targets, Australia will also meet our Paris commitments as well, and we stand by them. We are committed to reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 26 to 28% below 2005 levels by 2030. This is a credible, fair, responsible and achievable contribution to global climate change action. It represents a halving of our emissions per person in Australia, or a 2/3 reduction in emissions per unit of gross domestic product. At the centre of our domestic efforts is a $3.5 billion climate solutions plan that I successfully, as Prime Minister, took to our recent national election, supporting practical projects like capturing methane from waste, revegetation of degraded land and soil carbon. Through our climate solutions plan, we are supporting the transition to renewable energy with projects such as Snowy 2.0, the largest pumped hydro station project in the Southern Hemisphere. And we are investing significantly in research and development to use the best science and business expertise to commercialise new renewable technologies and integrate renewables into our electricity grid. Australia now has the highest per capita investment in clean energy technologies of anywhere in the world, and 1 in 5 Australian households has rooftop solar systems. In 2018, $13.2 billion was invested in clean energy technologies in Australia. This builds on the estimated $10 billion invested in 2017. And we're also doing the right thing by our neighbours. We recently committed to invest a further 500 million Australian dollars over the next 5 years from 2020 for renewable energy, climate change and resilience in the Pacific. We have decided to invest this directly from within our International Overseas Development Program, rather through making an additional budget contribution to the Global Green Climate Funds. This enables us to target our support directly to Pacific Island nations, ensuring they receive this support directly in a more timely and a more targeted fashion. At the same time, it provides greater transparency, fairness and accountability for Australian taxpayers who rightly demand attention and support from their government to address the significant challenges at home, in particularly boosting drought resilience through our investment in our national water grid infrastructure. Australia is also committed with other countries to the Montreal Protocol, an agreement that will help protect the world from ozone depletion and will combat climate change. Under the Montreal Protocol, Australia will further accelerate its efforts and will use 60% less HCFCs than permitted. I can proudly inform you that Australia is on track to fulfil these commitments and urge all other countries to do likewise. All of this adds up to significant and comprehensive action by Australia in response to the world's greatest environmental challenges. Australia is under no illusions about the challenges the global community confronts in the years ahead. And today I want to assure all members that Australia is carrying its own weight and more, just as we always have. We're a generous nation playing our part in securing our shared future, reforming the rules of global governance, setting common standards to ensure global connectivity in a digital future, preventing conflict, building the capacity of developing nations, supporting essential health projects, protecting our oceans, and taking action on climate change and getting results. Like many leaders here, I get many letters from children in Australia concerned about their future. I take them very seriously and I deeply respect their concerns. And indeed, I welcome their passion, especially when it comes to our environment. My impulse is always to seek to respond positively and to encourage them, to provide context, perspective, and particularly to generate hope, to focus their minds and direct their energies to practical solutions, things they can do, positive behaviour that will deliver enduring results for them, to encourage them to learn more about science, technology, engineering and maths, because it will be through research, innovation and enterprise that the practical work of successfully managing our very real environmental challenges is achieved. We must respect and harness the passion and aspiration of our younger generations, and we must guard against others who would seek to compound or worse, facelessly exploit their anxiety for other agendas. We must similarly not allow their concerns to be dismissed or diminished, as this can also needlessly increase their anxiety. What parent would do otherwise? Our children have a right not just to their future, but to their optimism. Above all, we must let our children be children. Let our kids be kids. Let our teenagers be teenagers, while we do the work positively together to deliver the practical solutions for them and their future. I'm confident, once again, as Australia stands here again, that together we have the wit and the capacity and the will to surmount the challenges that will come our way, just as those who have come before us in this place have done, consistent with the values that have made that possible. I thank you very much for your attention.